What if I told you that the most feared criminal organization in history was also home to some of the dumbest people who ever lived? We're talking about a hitman who signed his crime scene with his initials, mafia boss caught because of a bus pass, a fugitive busted by his own cooking channel. These aren't jokes. These are real people, real criminals, real disasters. And by the end of this video, you will question how organized crime ever organized anything at all. Wait for number 15, because the most powerful mobster in America was taken down by something so embarrassingly stupid, it will make you laugh out loud. Let's descend into 15 gangsters too dumb for organized crime. Mafioso number 1, Jimmy Burke's crew, the heist that solved itself. December 1978. Jimmy Burke masterminded the Lufthansa heist at JFK Airport. $5.8 million in cash and jewelry. The biggest robbery in American history at the time. Jimmy had one rule for his crew afterward: lay low. Don't spend anything flashy. Don't draw attention. The very next morning, his guys rolled up to their neighborhoods in brand new Cadillacs, draped in fur coats, flashing jewelry like they just won the lottery. One of them reportedly bought a bright pink Cadillac, a pink one. These were guys who the week before couldn't afford just a decent dinner. The FBI didn't need Sherlock Holmes for this one. The spending spree was so absurd, it painted a giant neon arrow pointing directly at Burke's entire operation. They stole $5 million, then immediately told everyone about it. Mafioso number 2, Mark Claude Bart, got caught by his own cooking channel. Claude Bart was a fugitive linked to the 'Ndrangheta, one of Italy's most powerful crime organizations. He fled to the Dominican Republic and managed to stay hidden for years, living a quiet life in the Caribbean. But here's the thing about Claude. He really, really loved Italian cooking. So much so that he decided to launch his own YouTube channel, showing off his culinary skills, making traditional Italian dishes. To his credit, he was careful enough to never show his face on camera. Smart move. What he was not careful about were his very distinctive tattoos. Every time he rolled up his sleeves to chop onions, those unique tattoos were right there in full HD for the world to see. Italian authorities recognized them almost immediately. The man survived years on the run, only to be undone by his love for pasta content. Mafioso number 3, Gotti Jr., the man who typed up the secret society. John Gotti Jr., son of the infamous Teflon Don, was supposed to carry on his father's legacy as a sharp, untouchable crime boss. Instead, he earned himself a reputation that was slightly less impressive. When the FBI searched a property connected to Gotti Jr., they found something extraordinary in the basement: a neatly typed list of made members of the Gambino crime family, complete with names, ranks, and financial contributions. It was essentially a full organizational chart of one of America's most secretive criminal enterprises, folded up inside a small jewelry box. Imagine running a secret society so dangerous that members take a blood oath of silence, and then someone just types up the entire membership directory and leaves it in the basement. The FBI could not believe their luck. It was like finding a pirate's treasure map, except the pirate drew it himself. Mafioso number 4, Aldo Gianto, mustache disguise that fooled nobody. Aldo Gianto was a Camorra boss from Naples who found himself on the run from Italian police. His escape plan was to catch a catamaran to Malta and disappear. But Gianto had a problem. His face was plastered all over wanted posters. So he came up with what he probably thought was a genius idea. He put on a dress, a wig, and a pair of women's sunglasses. Now, the outfit itself was actually not terrible. The issue was that Aldo completely forgot about one very important detail on his face: his thick, unmistakable, very masculine mustache. He just left it there, fully visible under the wig and sunglasses. Police spotted him almost instantly as he tried to board the boat. The Camorra has done many terrifying things over the centuries, but sending a mustachioed man in a sundress to catch a ferry might be their most embarrassing moment. Stay with me, because what's coming next gets even more embarrassing. Mafioso number 5, Carmine Persico, who prosecuted himself. Carmine, the snake Persico, boss of the Colombo crime family, made legal history in the 1986 Mafia Commission trial by deciding to represent himself in court. No FBI surveillance photos existed of him, no recordings. Prosecutors had a genuinely difficult case. All Persico had to do was sit quietly and let reasonable doubt do the work. Instead, he stood up in front of the jury and started asking witnesses incredibly specific questions about the internal structure of the Colombo family. Questions that only someone actually running the organization would know to ask. With every question, he essentially confirmed that he understood the hierarchy, the rules, the operations, everything the prosecution was trying to prove. He didn't just lose his case, he basically prosecuted himself. The jury convicted him and he received a 100-year sentence. Somewhere, his actual lawyer was weeping into a briefcase. Mafioso number 6, Peter Gotti, the whispering mob boss. Peter Gotti, brother of the legendary John Gotti, inherited control of the Gambino crime family, but he lacked his brother's charisma and apparently his common sense. Peter was so paranoid about FBI surveillance that he banned his crew from speaking at normal volume. He ordered all associates to communicate exclusively by whispering directly into each other's ears. No phones, no talking. Just grown men cupping their hands and leaning into each other's heads like kindergartners sharing secrets. The problem was they were doing this on public streets, in parking lots, outside restaurants, in broad daylight. Groups of large, intimidating men huddling together and whispering into each other's ears in the middle of New York looked exactly as suspicious as you are imagining right now. FBI agents watching from surveillance vehicles identified every single member of Peter's crew just by watching the most conspicuous whispering circle in the history of organized crime. Mafioso number 7, Thomas Patera, the hitman who kept souvenirs. Thomas Patera, known as Tommy Karate for his martial arts skills, was a Bonanno crime family soldier suspected of as many as 60 murders during the 1980s. He was a calculated, methodical killer, which makes his one big habit even more baffling. Patera kept trophies. After each murder, he would take jewelry from his victims, rings, necklaces, watches, and store them in his home. Not hidden in a secret vault, not buried somewhere, just kept in his apartment, reportedly in boxes like a disturbing personal collection. When the FBI raided his home, they found over 60 pieces of victim jewelry sitting right there. Each piece was essentially a direct link to a specific murder. A physical catalogue of his crimes, neatly organised under his own roof. For a man who went to extreme lengths to hide evidence of his kills, keeping a souvenir box of victim jewelry at home was a staggeringly stupid contradiction. Mafioso number 8, Vincent Asaro, the mobster who threw it all away over traffic. Vincent Asaro was an old-school member of the Bonanno crime family, connected to serious organized crime for decades, including the infamous 1978 Lufthansa heist. Despite being a suspect for years, Asaro managed to beat the Lufthansa charges at trial in 2015. He was acquitted, free and clear. He walked out of that courtroom a free man in his early 80s, having survived one of the most high-profile mob cases in American history. So what did he do with his hard-won freedom? He got into a road rage incident. Some random driver cut him off in traffic, and Asaro, rather than just cursing under his breath like a normal person, ordered his grandson to go burn the driver's car. They set the vehicle on fire, were caught almost immediately, and both pleaded guilty to arson charges. Decades of dodging federal cases, wasted because someone cut him off. Hold on, because the next gangsters are even more spectacularly stupid. We're about to meet a drug lord who tried to bribe police in a language nobody understood, a mob accountant who kept perfect records of every crime, and a getaway driver who got lost on the way out. Mafioso number 9, Roberto Panunzi, the drug lord who bribed nobody. Roberto Panunzi was nicknamed the Pablo Escobar of Europe and was considered one of the biggest cocaine traffickers on the continent, moving massive shipments between South America and Italy through his connections with the 'Ndrangheta. In 1994, Colombian police finally tracked him down in Medellin and moved in for the arrest. Panunzi was a man used to solving problems with money, so he did what came naturally. He tried to bribe the arresting officers on the spot, reportedly offering around $1 million in cash. But here's where it fell apart. Panunzi delivered his desperate offer in a thick Calabrian Italian dialect that the Colombian officers could not understand at all. He was essentially shouting life-changing amounts of money at people who had zero idea what he was saying. They just cuffed him and moved on. He later bragged about the bribe attempt, apparently still not understanding why it had failed. Mafioso number 10, Mickey Cohen, the mob boss with OCD issues. Mickey Cohen was the king of the Los Angeles underworld in the 1940s and 1950s, a man who controlled gambling, bookmaking, and organized crime on the entire West Coast. He was also a man with severe obsessive-compulsive disorder. Cohen washed his hands up to 50 times a day. He changed his clothes multiple times daily. Every surface around him had to be spotless. And here's where it gets beautiful for law enforcement. That same obsessive need for order extended to his finances. Cohen kept meticulous, detailed, perfectly organized records of every dollar he earned and spent, every transaction documented, every receipt saved. It was a tax auditor's dream come true. When the IRS came after him, they didn't need to dig through hidden accounts or decode secret ledgers. Mickey had done all the work for them. He was convicted of tax evasion, his criminal empire undone by the same compulsive tidiness that kept his bathrooms sparkling. Mafioso number 11, Ignazio Lupo, the wolf who mailed evidence to himself. Ignazio Lupo, known as Lupo the Wolf, was one of the most feared figures in early 20th century New York. He was suspected of dozens of murders and ran black-hand extortion rackets that terrorized Italian immigrants across Manhattan. Genuinely terrifying guy. But when it came to his side business of counterfeiting, Lupo was spectacularly bad at it. The fake bills his operation produced were so poorly made that even children could tell they were not real. But the real masterpiece of stupidity was his extortion letters. Lupo sent threatening notes demanding money from local businessmen, which is standard blackhand stuff, except he included his actual return address on the envelopes, his real one, the address where he lived. The man who was feared as the wolf was literally mailing evidence to his own doorstep. Even the post office knew where to find him. Mafioso number 12, Camorra Yacht, the yacht that couldn't leave the building. The Camorra, Naples' infamous crime organization, once had a truly ambitious plan for drug smuggling. They decided to build their own luxury yacht, a full-sized vessel designed to transport narcotics across the Mediterranean. Guglielmo Giuliano oversaw the project at a secret shipyard hidden inside a massive warehouse to keep the whole thing under wraps. The construction took months of work, significant manpower, and enormous amounts of money. When the yacht was finally completed, the crew prepared for the grand launch. And then they discovered a tiny problem. The yacht was too wide to fit through the warehouse doors. Nobody at any point during the entire construction process had bothered to measure the exit. So there it sat, a beautiful, fully finished smuggling yacht trapped inside its own building like a ship in a bottle. Police eventually found it just sitting there, a monument to organized crime's most embarrassing engineering failure. Stay with me, because the final three gangsters are the most spectacularly stupid of all. We're about to meet mafia boss who was arrested collecting pocket change, a hitman who called his target to confirm the address, and the most embarrassing takedown in FBI history. Mafioso number 13, Luigi Baby Shax, the 83-year-old boss who wouldn't delegate. Luigi Baby Shax Minocchio was the boss of the Patriarca crime family, the dominant mafia organization in New England. By the time he reached his 80s, most mob bosses in his position would have delegated the day-to-day operations entirely, staying far from anything that could attract attention. Not Luigi. At 83 years old, Minocchio was still personally, physically showing up at local strip clubs to collect small extortion payments. We're not talking about millions here. These were relatively modest protection payments from establishments like the Cadillac Lounge. He would just walk in, an 83-year-old crime boss, collect his envelope and leave, like it was a part-time retirement job. FBI barely had to work for this one. They just waited for the elderly gentleman to make his monthly rounds. He was arrested during a massive organized crime sweep in 2011. The boss himself was caught doing something any low-level associate could have handled. Mafioso number 14, Nicodemo Scarfo, the boss who destroyed his own family. Nicodemo Little Nicky Scarfo became boss of the Philadelphia Mafia in 1981 and almost immediately turned the organization into a paranoid nightmare. Scarfo was so suspicious of everyone around him that he started ordering murders of his own members for the smallest perceived slights. A wrong look, a misinterpreted comment, a moment of hesitation. Any of these could get you killed under Scarfo's leadership. The result was entirely predictable. His own people, terrified that they could be next for literally any reason, started lining up to become FBI informants. Half the Philadelphia family went running to the federal government because working with the FBI was genuinely safer than working for Nicky Scarfo. He managed to do what decades of law enforcement pressure could not. He single-handedly destroyed his own crime family through pure, unhinged paranoia. Mafioso number 15, Al Capone, the most powerful mobster in America versus his own golf bag. Al Capone was arguably the most famous gangster in American history. A man who built a criminal empire, dodged murder charges, and ran Chicago like his personal kingdom. But in 1928, the most dangerous thing Capone encountered was not a rival gang or a federal agent. It was his own golf bag. After finishing a round of golf, Capone reached for his bag, which contained a loaded .45 caliber revolver he carried for protection. The gun went off accidentally and shot him in the leg. The most powerful mobster in America had to be rushed to the hospital because he couldn't handle his own firearm near a golf course. The press had a field day. Here was this terrifying crime lord, the man behind the St. Valentine's Day massacre, taken out by his own pants pocket on hole 18. The FBI spent years trying to catch him. His golf bag did it in one afternoon. Stay with me to realize something uncomfortable. Because the real question isn't how these gangsters were so dumb. The real question is, if these idiots ran criminal empires for decades, what does that say about the rest of us? 15 gangsters. 15 spectacular failures of basic intelligence. Burke's crew bought pink Cadillacs the morning after the heist. Claude got caught by his own cooking channel. Gotti typed up the membership directory. Gianto forgot about his mustache. Capone was shot by his own golf bag. And the most embarrassing takedown in FBI history. Organized crime. Not that organized. If this video made you laugh, question everything, and feel slightly better about your own life choices, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment. Which gangster was the dumbest? We need to settle this debate. Share this video with someone who thinks they're having a bad day, because at least they didn't get caught by their own cooking channel. Next video, we are uncovering 15 technologies buried to keep you dependent and 15 ancient curses that actually came true. You don't want to miss it. Subscribe, comment, share, and remember, even the most feared criminals in history were just people making spectacularly bad decisions. See you in the shadows.